Hey y'all, and welcome to episode 8 of the Unseen Strands podcast. This is a crochet and fiber arts related podcast where I, your host Mo, am visually impaired and will be sharing with you strands of my life. I come to you from central Iowa, where I live with my husband, our 4 boys, our 2 cats, and our dog. Hopefully, I'll be able to re-record this intro later, but apparently my microphone hasn't been working, and I didn't know this because apparently the microphone inside my headset has decided to start working again and quit being all poppy. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's better than it was, which I think is really funny. Since it had gotten to the point where it was completely inaudible, where it was just stuttery with what it would actually pick up, and now it's picking up halfway decent, so that's just kind of funny to me. So yeah, I don't know what's wrong with the microphone. Every time I plug it in, it tells me that the device is not recognized and that I need to plug it in, which it does that when I plug it in, so I don't know what else I am supposed to do. So my husband said that he would take a look at it later. But since I am getting some kind of audio pickup, I guess I'll just go ahead and start recording. And if this is a whole lot worse than he gets it with the actual microphone, I guess I'll just restart. But we'll just go from here because most likely we haven't been actually getting the good microphone quality, except for that one time when I was like, ooh, this is so crystal clear, but I had to amplify it like 400% in order for it to be the same quality as I was getting for everything else. And I'm guessing that was the one time my microphone was actually working. But I don't know. We'll just see. So welcome back to any of our returning listeners this week, and a very warm welcome if you are a new listener. If you hadn't guessed, this is mostly an audio podcast, although you will see there is a slideshow of pictures that does show above, and sometimes I will write on these photos, and the writing only shows when the picture first goes up, and it seems to be like a 3-second thing. I can't really, or I haven't figured out how to change this unless I just continuously put the same picture with writing on it next to each other. So at least for now, just be aware that if there's anything that I'm adding while I'm editing versus talking, I will put that in writing on the pictures. And usually this is pretty much like at the end when I will let you know that there are no new photos coming up, so you know you can at least visually zone out for the rest of the episode. So like I said last week, I do have quite a bit of at least works in progress to share with you, and that's why I thought it was more appropriate to split this into 2 episodes and have last week as an announcements episode, and then this week be our normal kind of crafting talk. So let's get started with finished objects. I do have a few this week. My first thing would be I like to call it my Ocean Blossom shawl. This is the dreaded Honey Blossom shawl that was worked with the Yarn Journey Crochet podcast, Cal, and I decided that I wanted to work it up in a color theme more appropriate for my mom. So I did the Valentine's Day one that is for me, and then I did this one that is ocean colorways, and it features the Premier Eversoft yarn in the colors gray, and then the 3 ocean colorways, which is light ocean, ocean, and dark ocean. And so I basically used the gray and then faded into up to the dark ocean and then faded back to the gray. And I used the same kind of edging on it as I worked with my shawl, except for I did do a single crochet chain 3 along the flat edge with the gray. Since it starts and ends with the gray, I actually thought this time it looked like it made it more complete and finished it off, unlike with my honey blossom shawl that I made for myself, which it would have looked kind of weird since that was out of a mandala cake, so it didn't quite flow with the same color like this one did. And that was working with an H hook, since it was a worsted weight yarn. And overall, I very much enjoyed working this shawl. This one in particular, I think it's very touchable. I don't know. I did wash my other one, and that one I think is nicer now that I did wash it. But this one isn't even washed, and I just can't help but touch it. And I did work each color. I did 2 of the cluster rows before changing the color, just in case you were interested in how I did it. So I think that made it 8 rows for each color before changing out the color. My next finished object is the hat that I am wearing. I guess this probably should have been the one I started off with, but I kind of forgot about the other things I have finished since I last recorded. But yeah, this was made out of yarn that I had left over from my sidewalk shawl that I had made back in December. It is made out of a Karen cake in the blueberry cheesecake colorway, and I did use, I think, an eye hook on this. I can't remember if I put that on Ravelry or not, but I'm pretty sure I used an eye hook. And I used a simple double crochet hat pattern. I'll link down below to the pattern that I basically used, but pretty much all I used for this was my actual stitch count for around my head, as I thought the pattern came out a little bit short, so I made it a little bit longer, I think maybe 2 rows longer, and then I added the ribbed fold up edge to it instead of the other edge, and I'm forgetting exactly how many rounds of ribbing. It was 6 or 8, I think. I'm not exactly sure where I put the hat, so I can't just pull it out and count for you. But I did that edging until I was satisfied with where it came to rest on my head, and then I went and worked a reverse single crochet chain 1, which is something that I picked up from listening to some podcasts, and I do like this stitch a lot better than just the regular crab or reverse single crochet. So I think I'll be doing that a lot more. Oh, and my ribbing was just a front post and back post alternating double crochet. And then I had done the reverse single crochet also in front and back post that matched the stitch that it was going into. So I think that added a lot of maybe elasticity or stretch rather to my edging instead of having it a very restricted top. And yes, this was the hook that I had lost and why it was delayed in finishing. So I did find my hook. It looks like it was knocked on the floor by the cat, and then little hands had picked it up and had laid it on top of a box underneath my chair. I have a couple boxes next to my computer that are all shop supplies, and the littles like to climb those so they can get up into my chair. So it looks like they had put down the hook so they could climb the box next to it, because the hook was actually underneath my chair. And the box they climb up was next to my chair. So yeah, they had put the hook down to climb up into my chair. So I did find it, and all is well, even though technically I did kind of replace it. But I'll get into that later. I also did get a couple more of the teething biscuits made up, and I also got another scrubber sale on Etsy. This one actually came from someone over on Ravelry that had seen one of my finished objects and decided they did not want to make the scrubbers themselves, so they went ahead and ordered, and I got those made up and sent off to them. And I believe that these use the same hook. I can't remember if the teething biscuits use a G or an H hook. I don't think it really matters. The thing that matters with these is that you do use cotton yarn, and that you make it large enough so that they can't really stuff the whole thing into their mouth and choke on it. And yeah, so I believe that was made out of just scraps of washcloth yarn and nothing particularly special. And then the scrubbers are all made out of nylon net that I have cut myself and then crocheted together. And the least stuffed scrubbers are made out of a G hook. And I do have a sort of kind of finished object in my spinning. I did get my 30 grams of mohair spun. I was shooting for about 30 grams so that when I ply it with something else, I'll still have enough to qualify for the Yarn to Table podcast Cal, which is a fiber quest or a journey through using different kinds of fibers. And she was having a different amount, and I just decided that I would try to get at least a 50% count of mohair so that I wouldn't have to worry that it wasn't using enough or anything. And so I've decided to start spinning the Black Welsh Mountain with this. And I guess that's my nice segue into my whips, as I did start spinning the Black Welsh Mountain. Sorry, for some reason I cannot get those three words to come out. This color is more of like a reddish brown, which is really funny because my husband came into the living room one day and it was right after it was thick enough that I decided to split it once, and Zane had gotten one of the tail ends of it and had it in his hand and was running around, and my husband thought that he had gotten a hunk of my hair and was running around with it because apparently it is about the same color of my hair, which is really funny to me. So I haven't gotten very far on that, but I do try to spin a little bit of it each day. I didn't think I was going to like this fiber at all when I started working with it, but now that I've gotten started, I do like it a lot more than even I like merino, although I don't like it as much as I liked spinning the mohair. Because honestly, so far the mohair is like the favoriteest thing that I have spun so far. And it looks like I have forgotten that it was early out day today. So the Bigs are now home, and so if you hear anyone burst into the room screaming, it's probably Sam, although it could be Jeremy too. So just a little heads up if you hear anything unusual. So on to my mittens that I am making. This is out of an alpaca yarn. It's a 50% alpaca, 50% merino. This is also being worked for the Yarn to Table podcast Cal. January and February was the land of camelids, which is alpaca, llama, or camel fiber. And I actually got this yarn because the hook that I had ordered with my fibers was out of stock. And instead of waiting for a new hook to come in, since I did want the rest of my fibers, I chose to change it to this alpaca yarn, which lucky for me, they had mislabeled. So I actually got it for cheaper than it was supposed to be. And I even got 2 skeins of it because I wanted to make sure that I had more than 50 grams. And so I ended up with probably a few dollars, $4 or so, $2 each, because I think I got it for 7 something a skein, and it's supposed to be 10 something a skein. So yeah, I got a nice little savings on this yarn. But it is a fingering weight yarn, and I am working it with an E-hook. I am working the Hermione Shell Mittens by Andrea Denby. This is a free pattern download on Ravelry. And I now basically have all of one hand done. I still need to work the thumb hole, but I figured I would go ahead and work up the second mitt and then work both thumb holes together, as I'm kind of trying to avoid the second sock syndrome, as at least I can work mindlessly the base of the mitten so far. and then I'll actually have to go back to read the thumb, and I'm pretty sure I'll still have to go back and reread it when I work the second thumb, but if I just do both thumbs at the same time, I think it'll be a lot easier and I won't have to reread the pattern several times in order to get it right. So that's whip number 1 or 2, depending on if you're counting the fiber as a whip. I would, since I am currently working on it. So then we have whip number 3, which will do my granny square Afghan. This is the companion to the one that I have finished already. This one is made out of the mandala unicorn colorway, and the other one was worked as the spirit colorway. And this is worked as a companion since both will be going to a set of twins that are due early on this year. And so I do need to get more done, but the little stitch marker you might see on it is I am participating in a Ready, Set, Go Cal on the Pen Hooks and Needles podcast, and you can post progress photos. So the picture or the stitch marker there is for that podcast or that progress photo. Sorry about that. Jeremy had finished the Etsy order that they were working on, and I've got them resettled downstairs, so hopefully we don't get interrupted. I can finish recording at least this rough draft. But back to the granny square. I am just working the basic granny square with HE hook. And now on to whip number 4. And this is a pair of crocheted socks that I am working for myself. If you are wondering, yes, this is the yarn that I won in one of the Geeky Girl Knits podcast cals. It was the fall cal that ended November 30th, and I forget what it was called, but their cals are pretty much any Ravelry craft that you make, you can enter to win. So I don't even remember which item won it, but I won this skein of yarn and I got it either the first or second week of December. And so I was going to make a pair of socks for my husband out of it, but since I got afraid that 100 grams might not be enough to make crocheted socks for him out of, especially since I don't have anything to work toes, heels, and cuff in a contrast color in, I decided I would go ahead and just work a pair of socks for myself since I know I can get a pair of socks for myself done out of it. I am working the Fallen Leaves pattern by Vicki Brown. This is out of a sock collection book, and I actually got the sock collection book as a prize for one of the crochet alongs that I did last year as well. So that's kind of funny that it's out of prize-winning yarn and a prize-winning pattern. But I had gotten that from the Silver's Dreamland podcast. I had actually won two $10 up to $10 value patterns, and I had asked her if she would accept one collection of patterns download instead of 2 separate downloads, and so she agreed to that. So I got this pattern collection book from Silver, and so yeah, I am working the sock pattern with an E-hook, and so far so good. I really like the way that the orange pulled on the first sock. My husband doesn't like green, I guess, and so he doesn't like the green on the first sock. He likes the toe better of the second sock, but I kind of wish that the would have kind of swirled around the edge like it did in the first one, but I did decide to work the second sock before working the heel so that I could decide which side I wanted to be up versus down on the socks, because the toe is much more orange on the one side than the other, and so I'm like, I might as well have them at least halfway match. I know they wouldn't identically match, but the color seems to be shorter repeats on the second sock than the first sock, but that's probably because I'm working from the other end of the yarn. And as usual, I am crocheting socks and not knitting, so they probably were supposed to be more stripy for a set of knitted socks instead of a set of crocheted socks. And I'm not sure what the yarn dyer is for this yarn. I want to say it was something like Stars Hollow or something, but I couldn't get either of the boys to read the name on the label to me, and I don't know if it has an actual colorway name because, again, I couldn't get them to read it. Although I remember when I first got it, I do believe it is a 75-25 wool nylon blend. So hopefully I will have those done by our next episode. So on to my next and last whip of this episode. We went to Hobby Lobby on Monday, which was my husband's birthday, which is why he was off of work. And this is also the day that we unexpectedly, or at least unexpectedly for my family, got 6 inches of snow dumped on us because I know I've been a little spacey in the mornings, but at least on school mornings, I always listen to the weather in the morning. So Monday through Friday, I basically know what the weather is. And I know on Friday they said we might get a dusting of snow on Super Bowl Sunday, which we were supposed to get more snow on that Sunday, and then it had decreased the chance just to a dusting. And then on Monday, it turned out that we were going to get like the 6-inch dump. And yeah, we didn't know about it. But we went to Hobby Lobby, and the littles had picked out a skein of yarn, and they begged me to make them hats for the snow. And okay, I know they really didn't beg me to make them hats, but you just have to see this yarn. I love this yarn, and it is in the colorway Kaleidoscope. And they did pick this yarn over another color. And so yeah, I am crocheting them both hats out of this. It is just a basic half double crochet hat, and I'm going to make it ear flap. So this is all stuff that I'm just kind of making up as I go and kind of measuring around their heads to see what I need. And I do think I will make them identical, even though Zane's head is a little bigger than Leo's head, just to make it so that it doesn't matter who gets which hat. And then I'm going to trim them in some black I Love This yarn and use that reverse single crochet chain 1 for the edging of it. And that will be using an H hook. And with this being the episode of Technical Interruptions, I am again on to the next day recording, and hopefully we won't have any more interruptions, but no promises, as the littles are down for their nap now and the big boys are back at school. So let's just hope we can get finished. There isn't too much more, but yeah. Oh, and the status on my microphone that my brother got me for Christmas is it doesn't work, and who knows if it ever really actually worked to its potential. And so my husband did message the manufacturers to see if we could get it replaced, but in the fine print or something, it says something about sending $15 and blah, blah, blah. And so, and that you needed a receipt or something. And so he had messaged my brother to get, a copy of the receipt. And my brother said he was just going to send me a new one. So we'll see how that works. It's just the microphone. Everything else that he got me works fine, the stand and the carrying case and all that. So I don't know when I can expect that, but we'll just keep working with this headset since it is currently working at least halfway. I know there are still a little bit of pops. I've tried to re-record things that I've noticed are popping and stopping and starting. I know it's not very smooth sailing on this episode, but you'll appreciate it if you heard some of the popping that it does do. I do have to keep my head at a certain angle, and that seems to help, but sometimes it just needs me to stop and start recording again to make it sound right. So anyways, on to the stash enhancements. If you couldn't have told, I did buy the Kaleidoscope yarn. I also bought a set of crochet hooks. I want to say my husband says it was Leisure Art crochet hooks. I'm not going to swear to that. They are in the picture. So if you know what they are or can read what they are from the picture, more power to you. I don't really care. I just know that they are much more of the style of hook that I was looking for. And when we went to Hobby Lobby, they had one hook that was by itself that was a deluxe luxury model or something, and it had kind of a silicone base to it, where these just have the plastic. But for the price of one hook, pretty much, I could get the whole set of hooks with the 40% off coupon. So yeah, with a 40% off coupon, the one hook would have been only like $2, but the set of 10 hooks was only like $6, I want to say. So it turned out, actually, I don't even know if it was that much. I don't know. Our whole total was like $10, and we got the set of crochet hooks and the skein of yarn and a remnant fabric piece that was marked, I think, at $3. So with tax, I'm not even for certain that the hooks came out to the right price because I'm pretty sure they were marked as $10. But anyway, these hooks are a metal hook on the end, and unlike the Susan bait hooks, which I don't like because of how the grabber part of the hook is, it's really flat and really grippy. I don't know, it's not smooth, so I find that it splits a lot of yarn. And I personally never had issues with that until using one of these hooks. And so I had one that has a wooden handle, and that's why I'd gotten it, so that I would have just that little bit more to hold on to while crocheting. And yeah, I discovered that I really hated working with that G hook, although I really like working with my E hook, which is also a wooden handled hook, except for this one was out of the Hobby Lobby brand. And so that was kind of what I was going back to. Well, what I wanted was the style of hook that I lost on the airplane when we went on vacation this fall. So that one had a metal base and then a plastic handle. That particular one had a more rectangular handle, and the new hooks that I got have more of a round handle, but they both have the metal tip and not the Susan Bates style of hook. So that was much appreciated by me. So basically, I went in to replace my G hook and instead replaced pretty much every single hook that I have. I'll probably still continue to work with my I hook, as it is one that kind of stands out since it was a light up hook that I've now had to put tape on. So it's a lot more distinguished since I need to be able to tell my hooks apart. I'm not sure if I'll continue to work with my E-hook that I have or if I'll go ahead and take the one out of the set, because the one that I have, it does have a really long base and I have really small hands, so I actually like the base length of the new hooks a lot better. But I don't mind working with the E-hook that I have. So we'll just kind of see. I'm going to finish working the couple items that I have going, as they are kind of different hooks, so I think they might change my tension or whatever if I decided to change now. But I'm probably going to go ahead and change my G hook out of my granny square, since like I said, I can't stand that. But I am excited to now have an official 3mm hook and an official 7mm hook, since before all I had was the US sized hooks, so I did not actually own any of these millimetered hooks. And if you can hear Sona in the background, she has decided that it is her lunchtime. So yeah, she's kind of eating kind of noisily for her. Okay, well, I think she's done. So we'll hope she doesn't run back into the kitchen again and make a bunch of noise. So other than our Hobby Lobby trip, we did go back to that Walmart that had the mandala cakes for $3. So the unicorn that I am working with the granny square blanket is out of a new cake of mandala. I figured since it was still at the $3 price mark, I would just go ahead and get a new skein of that, or a new cake of it. And I also got in the progress keepers or stitch markers that I had ordered. And so if I get permission from the seller, I will include pictures of each one of those in here. And if I don't get permission, I did get my cake, which is like a tiered cake. I also got a fox one and a rocking horse one, and those are to represent the littles, or like you may have noticed, I am using them to pretty much mark any of the baby themed items that I have, at least the rocking horse. And then for Sam, I have a dinosaur. I think I might have forgotten to order the dinosaur, or my Etsy thing just doesn't show all the items on the preview or whatever for the order. I didn't actually go into the listing, but she did include a dinosaur with my order. So I do have one for Sam, and then I have a trumpet to represent Jeremy. And then I have a jack-o'-lantern or pumpkin stitch marker for my husband, as he's all things Halloween. And then I have two different dolphins to represent myself. I also have gotten a music note, which I got to represent projects that I am working on for his mom or other family members, or I can pretty much use that one interchangeably on any project. And I also got some sunglasses, which they're called sunglasses in the description or the listing title, but I would just say that they are like reading glasses or glasses. They're just glasses. But I got those to represent this podcast, and I still think that that is a perfectly good symbol. So I'm not upset at all that they aren't what I would call sunglasses. And last but not least, I got a turtle, which is to represent things that I make for my mom. So far, I have already used the rocking horse, the fox, the one pair of the sunglasses. Did I use the dolphin? Yes, I think I'm using the dolphin on my socks. Or no, that was on the mittens. Which one is on the socks? Oh, that's the sunglasses. And the turtle. And I did purchase these all from an Etsy shop, which is ColoRingsbyEllie. She was running a sale on these when I had purchased them, although that is over now. And I just pretty much wanted to tell you where I had gotten them. So I probably will review them later on. But for right now, I just wanted to let you know what I had gotten in. So I think that is it this week for stash enhancements. And now onto our little shout outs. And I have kind of sort of a little blind story for you before we get started. I had been subscribing, as you know, to many new channels since the shout out videos had started, and I found myself getting very behind in listening to the podcast. And so this week I decided, actually this happened while I was trying to search on how to downgrade the quality of the videos because we had some internet troubles. Again, my technical difficulties this week. But yeah, so I was looking how to downgrade the visual quality of the picture since obviously I don't need that, and I thought that would help upload the video faster. So I was in and I found again the setting to speed up the videos. So now if you are a podcaster, I am probably listening to you in 2x speed, and this has completely helped the situation of me being able to get in all the podcasts. I'm actually getting caught up instead of further and further behind. Like, I think I'm actually all the way caught up through a week of videos now. I might be a little more behind now that I am recording and not listening to podcasts. but it is much nicer when an hour podcast only takes half an hour. And I probably wouldn't recommend this for the normal person. You can speed things up to 1.25 speed, and that might be all most you average people can handle. I know that's about, if I can get something sped up, that's about as far as my husband will allow me to speed it up. But I often listen to books in 3 times speed. So it's very just normal for me to listen to things like this. And just FYI, it makes all your music hilarious sounding. So yeah, I've been having fun with that and appreciating getting caught up on things because I pretty much have trouble saying no to subscribing to things. And then I always feel guilty when I can't keep up with you, as I just love everyone's personal stories, no matter what it is. I think everyone is important. So yeah, I feel guilty if I can't get caught up with you. And so I am enjoying, at least, even if I'm not retaining everything 100%, I feel much better that I am at least getting in most of your story, even if I'm missing little pieces because I am listening to you in double speed. So this week I'm going to go ahead and shout out groups that have CALs that I am participating or will be participating in. These are just 4 of them, as like I said, I'm only going to do for a week so I can keep it to things that I can tell you a little bit about before you go and check them out. And some of them may have over 1,000 subscribers already. I'm not really tracking that. I just kind of wanted to pick a theme, and last time it was ones that I hadn't heard mentioned, and so this one is ones with CALs that you may want to subscribe to so you can go join the CALs too. Let's go ahead and start off with Yarn Journey Crochet. This is a fellow US podcaster. I think she is in Virginia. She's at least off on the East Coast-ish somewhere. And she is a mostly crocheter. She has started to do some knitting. She enjoys the graph Afghans, and she is currently running the Honey Blossom CAL, which is coming to an end in the next, not even a full week-ish, because I believe it ends on Valentine's Day. So if you want to get in on that, you should go check it out soon. Then there is the CAL that I keep mentioning over and over again, and that is the Silver's Dreamland podcast. And this is the Knit to Zero CAL. And Silver is a purely knitter, or at least this last episode, she admitted that knows how to crochet. So, or at least some basic knowledge. So I don't know if she has ever featured any crochet in her podcast. As far as I know, she is a purely knitter. But at least her CAL is for any project. It doesn't even have to be knit or crochet. So I do highly suggest you go over there. It's all year long and it's for any project. Number 3 this week will be the Yarn to Table podcast. This is one that you've probably heard me mention a lot when I'm talking about my whips, as the CAL that she is running, you don't need to spin your yarn, but I figured that was the only way I was going to be able to afford to play along. And this is the easiest way for me to know what I am getting with yarn. So yeah, her CAL is the Fiber Quest, which every 2 months she changes which fiber that we are focusing on. And like I've said in the whips, the January, February was the land of camelids, which is the camel, llama, and alpaca. And since I couldn't spin fast enough for this, that's why I bought yarn for that. And then the March and April is the land of goats, which is why I am spinning the mohair and have just started spinning the thing to pair with it. But that's another CAL. She is strictly knitting, and she's kind of had a little bit of a rut or slump. She kind of discussed that on her last episode. So if you'd kind of like to go over there and kind of cheer her on and perk her up, I'd sure appreciate it. And again, sorry for all the food crunching noises. Now, one of the cats has decided that it is time to eat. So I'm not sure if that's Naru or Motoko, but one of them decided that they needed to eat. And I think they just jumped over the gate a second ago, so we might be done. But just in case you hear any more crunching, it is a cat. Then the last cow that I would like to point out, or a last podcaster with a cow going on right now, is Katrina's Creations. She is also a mostly knitting artist, although she did just recently get a crochet hook. So we'll see if we can't bring her over to doing more crochet work. But she is running a sock cow, and hers is she was doing a blueberry sock pattern. It's a knit pattern, so I don't really know a lot about it, but I did ask in her thread, and she was allowing any sock pattern to be posted for a finished object and or progress photo. And so I've posted my crochet socks, and she said that was perfectly acceptable. So this cal ends at the end of February or the 1st of March. So I thought I'd toss that one real quick in here since it's soon to expire. And I know I've heard her mentioned on a couple other of the podcast lists, which kind of made me laugh because up to that point she was, as far as I can remember, she was strictly knit, but she also does do some spinning, so that's probably where I picked up on her, was actually from the spinning, which a lot of the podcasts I listen to have knitting and spinning and maybe crochet, so just another one for you to check out this week. And I think that's all this week. We finally made it. I feel like this has run really long, but maybe that's just because it has taken me so long to record and so many technical difficulties and interruptions in the process. So anyways, guys, if you want to find me on social media, you can go to either Mo's Crochet or Hooked on Mo's. I will have in the description box below which one I am where if you would like to find me, as well as Mo's Kids if you would like to check out the kids' either Facebook page or Etsy shop. And I think that's it. So if you have liked this episode, I hope you hook the like button and subscribe. See you later, guys.